And I have with me today John Roeser. John is a senior security leader at Domino's Pizza, and happy to have you here, John.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.
Well, let's kind of dive into security and just kind of a better understanding of not only security as it stands for most companies now, but we'll talk about some specifics around companies that excite you, AI, and a bunch of other things as well. But let's just kind of, what do you think is the current biggest problem companies face right now in improving their security posture?
Honestly, I think that there's a lot of problems that are presented in the security posture. So, lack of visibility is a big one. Over provisioning is one. Insider threat is a big one. So I think that there's many facets that we really need to pay attention to. But I would say honestly, if the biggest one that comes to mind for me is just that lack of visibility. Understanding that there's a lot of devices out there that could be sitting in the closet or back in the shipping area or wherever, that are potential footholds and problems that really plague us a lot in the cyber industry. We need to understand what is out there so that we can protect it. If we're not aware of it, we can't protect it.
And so when you find some sort of, let's focus on the internal. When you find something internal and you need to address that, are you typically just working with IT security people, or are you spreading out amongst other parts of the organization and resolving problems within any organization you're a part of?
We really spread out across the entire organization because ultimately security is everybody's problem. So, and I use the word problem very loosely, but security is it's a team sport. When we find these things, we have to understand, first of all, are they needed? Maybe it's something that was there that's been there for years and nobody was aware of it. Second, we need to understand what is it communicating with, because if it's been communicating with something bad, then we need to start to roll out our IR process and things like that. So, yeah, absolutely. It's not just the IT folks or the security folks. We're communicating with management, with legal, with HR, with everybody that's affected with this.
Okay. So here at DMC, we typically work with small, medium businesses. They don't have the broad security teams like you guys have at Domino's Pizza. I know you've worked for small or medium businesses in the past. I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, what are the early focus items? One of the things that they should focus on just to get started in improving their security posture at a small or medium business?
Yeah. So I think probably one of the biggest things that they could do to help increase their security is just turning on MFA. It's a very simple process. It stops a ton of the credential-based attacks. It's a very low cost of entry, high return on it. So it's one of those things where MFA, it doesn't seem like it's super effective, but it's probably one of the most effective things and most cost efficient things that you can do to help protect your business and in your personal life as well.
So that, kind of talks about some of the investments people make, and looking at where they spend their money is an important part of building a security strategy.
Yes.
There's a lot of companies entering the security market space. There's a lot of companies that have been a part of the security market space for a long time. They all have interesting stories to tell. I'm just kind of curious, what company excites you the most right now if you were looking at the broad security space?
There's a lot of companies out there that are doing some really good things, some really neat things. Honestly, there's not one particular company, and I would actually say it's more of a industry or a product line, and a lot of it revolves around hyperautomation. So there's a lot of great companies out there, Torque and Tynes and D3 Security, all doing some really good things. But for me, it's not just about the company; it's more about the product line and the advantages that it brings to the small to medium sized businesses. It really allows them to expand their capabilities, especially if you only have one, two, maybe three folks that are in your IT department. It really helps them out a ton. It gives them the ability to really draw upon some of the automation and the processes that the larger companies have. They have bodies, and the automation helps supplement that.
So, part of what we're seeing now changing in the market space, and as you look at the smaller IT teams trying to drive innovation in organizations, AI is all the rage. AI is everywhere, whether it's embedded in a product, whether you're starting up an AI practice within your organization, or whether you're just turning on Copilot to run as part of the Office 365 environment. having a security strategy prior to rolling out any sort of AI change is important. I'm just curious from your perspective, what should they consider early on? What should some of these companies think about as they plan for an AI strategy in their business?
Yeah, and we, Domino's has actually just recently gone through something very similar. So, one of the biggest things that I would say is that you really need to understand: do you actually need it? AI is great, and it is all the rage, but at the same time, having it just to say you have it is not necessarily a good strategy. So, I would make sure that you clearly define your use cases. Make sure that your data is ready to embrace something like that because there is a lot of work behind it. Um, I would also encourage people to partner with other areas of the business when it comes to AI. Your legal team really needs to be a part of those conversations because policies and procedures have to be written around it. Again, understanding your data, making sure that you've tagged things that are PII and potential compliance issues. You really need to understand those things. So, I guess I would start with the simple one of understanding a clear case for AI.
Okay. So that means understand the business strategy, understand where they want to work with it within the organization as a whole. Don't look at it just as a technical problem, but really kind of dive into what is the use case? How does security need to be a part of that strategy for AI and work it from a business problem than a true technical problem?
Absolutely. That's really a key portion of it is just making sure that you're not putting it out there just to say that you have AI because there's many companies out there that they just simply don't need it, and when you introduce technologies like that, you also inadvertently introduce security risks as well.
Cool. Well, one of the things I like to do on these is talk about what people like to do. I know you're coaching softball with Napoleon. You guys
Yes.
had a huge win against Anthony Wayne this year, so a phenomenal team, and you guys came away with a great big win against them. I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, any other standout moments or standout students that you want to recognize from the year in softball?
Oh, we actually we have a lot of great standout students. Our team this year is just loaded with athletes. Very blessed to have all of them on the team. They do a great job. We actually just had a really nice win last night against with our JV team against Finley. They finished 17-1 in 5 innings. So
Wow.
they did a phenomenal job out there. But honestly, I'm blessed to be able to coach out there and to be part of their program. It's a great team, great community. Love being out there.
Good. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And as an Anthony Wayne graduate, it pains me to say it, but man, that's congratulations on a huge win against a great Anthony Wayne softball team. So
I'm sure they'll give it back to us sometime soon.
yeah, you never know. Finally, let's just talk about one thing before we close here. And I know you're passionate about students and the way that they enter into the IT security world. You and I have been friends for a long time. I know your path started more in the infrastructure space, moved into the security space as part of a career path progression, and continued into senior leadership for IT security. I just what would you advise students to think about as they come out of high school or college, whether it's Penta, whether it's one of the local high schools, whether it's a college, and they're trying to get their start in IT security? What are some of the things you think they should really focus on, whether it's security focused or whether it's some other soft skills outside of the security space?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, and honestly, I'd start with those soft skills. That's really really important for anybody in the IT industry. As someone who is somewhat of an introvert myself, those soft skills can be a little difficult to master. So that's a really good starting point. And I would say, like in regards to the technical perspective, focus on your basics. Your networking, your virtualization, your cloud infrastructure, things like that, because again, ultimately, security plays a role in everything, and it really is everybody's responsibility to help keep things safe. And understanding, what security issues revolve around the cloud space, which ones revolve around the networking space, the virtualization. There's a lot of the basics that play into cybersecurity. My start wasn't necessarily the same as what everybody else's was. I actually started off as a programmer, worked through a couple different career paths, and ultimately landed in security. I would say that if you're going to start in security, make sure that you are paying attention to those other industries. Take those networking classes, take those virtualization classes, take those cloud infrastructure classes. They really are helpful, and ultimately, it just makes you a stronger, well-rounded IT person.
So from a student's perspective, really don't just focus on a security product or a security platform. Really understand IT and business as a whole, understand how you communicate across the organizations, and kind of move into the security space as part of that broad understanding of organizational work and the infrastructure or application stack.
Yeah, the people that I've seen flourish the most, um, just stepping into security, are the ones that really have a lot of adversity and are willing to go and learn those other things.
Very cool. Well, John, any final comments before we wrap up for the day?
No, I really appreciate you having me on, and always love talking about cybersecurity. And hopefully, we can do this again.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think, maybe another one will be around AI and specific to AI security. So, John, I appreciate the time, really appreciate what you do in the Toledo community, helping not only students and interns, but really kind of engaging with them at all throughout the level. Good luck to Napoleon softball as you wrap up the season. Hope it's a good finish to the season. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.
Take care.